So a warm welcome for April.
Testing. All right, it works. Great. How's the conference going so far? Yeah? This is my favorite conference. It's so fun. So I want to talk about the opportunity in all of this tech-driven privacy shifts taking place. I think we're at a really pivotal moment, so consider this your rah-rah. And I'm April Mullen. I'm an email geek. I've been doing email marketing for about 15 years. I started on the brand side, and then I went to the agency side, and I've spent the last 7 years now on the MarTech side. So I work for SparkPost. And I've taken my email career from being very email-focused to working for an email company that actually does brand and content. So I'm now a brand and content marketer. Yay! Email can translate to other things. So SparkPost, we are an email sending and optimization platform. We help senders reach the inbox with powerful solutions to help them plan, execute, and optimize their email programs. So you may have heard we bought Taxi for Email last year. That was a fabulous acquisition to help with email production and workflow. We have Inbox Tracker, which is our tool to help people measure deliverability. And we send 6.5 trillion emails per year. That's 40% of the world's commercial email. So we see a lot, and there's a lot of data in our system as a result. You might have also heard we got acquired by a Dutch company called MessageBird, and I love their mission. They say that they empower consumers to communicate with business in the same way they communicate with their friends. As consumers, all of us are consumers. How amazing is that? Now, we'll make that mission come to life. That is our mission. But they're already doing a lot of really cool things with other channels. And as part of the acquisition of email, they're going to be doing some cool stuff with us. So now I want to get to the meat of the presentation, which is some real talk. You all know this model. This is the ideal marketing model. You want your cost to acquire customers to be much smaller than your lifetime value over time. And the truth is, what's actually happening, and some of you may or may not even know this is happening in your companies. Some companies have very sophisticated modeling and they can see this. Others, they're still working toward getting this view. So in this scenario, let's say it's $500 to acquire your customer, and in a very short period of time, somebody makes a purchase, maybe they spend $100, you're in the red $400, this is just a hypothetical, and you've lost that customer very quickly. And a lot of that is because of the lack of data to personalize. I love Wayfair's presentation because that is like the gold standard of like the experiences that consumers want. A lot of times customers are being bombarded by messages. So as a result of personalization not being that great, people are then like every time you send an email or some kind of communication, you're going to make money. And so people are being bombarded by messages. And there's a lot of focus on short-term and campaign-specific metrics instead of customers. Very quickly, by show of hands, does this resonate with any of you on like the short term? You're being pushed for like campaign-based. How much are we making this month? But it's not really looking at customers. I see lots of nodding. I see like almost everyone nodding. Okay, so you feel the pain. And so I started thinking, like, why is this happening? Like, this is just terrible. We're marketing to people. We are, as email people, we are some of the most empathetic people on the marketing roster. Like, we know the customer really well, and we hate what we're being asked to do. And so it's because the CMO tenure is short. I really think this is what it is. If any of you have other thoughts, please tell me. I'll be at the beach. But the CMO tenure is getting shorter. It's not fair. As a marketer, I'm like, man, this really stinks. Like, the higher up the ladder you go, like, the shorter your tenure gets. Marketing is a really hard job. And as of late last year, it showed that there was a study that came out by the Wall Street Journal, and they said that it was 25.5 months. You get a little over 2 years to prove your value as a CMO, and you're out. So a problem is developed. If you look on, it's your left, I'm not very good with directions. On your left, paid media is a quick hit. It's like you spend a bunch of money in paid media, you're gonna get new customers. And that's how you're acquiring new audiences. But then they come to your site, you've got your amazing optimized email gate, you're asking people to opt in, maybe they've made a purchase, maybe they've signed up via SMS. We're seeing that with a lot of companies now. At that point that they become known, that's where a lot of you take over. So now we have like the full spectrum of like, okay, we know who these people are. They're anonymous on the left. They're fuzzy segments. Maybe we've got third-party data. We purchased them. But then on the right side, we know who they are. And the problem has been it's a long game to then keep them. And so you've got a huge amount of investment happening on the left, not enough happening on the right. And just to give you an example, I used to work for a large brokerage firm, and when I managed an email program, I had $1 million annual budget, which you might think, some of you might be like, that's amazing, some of you might be like, that's not enough, but my display counterpart that sat right next to me, $65 million. And I'm just like, seriously? We're dealing with people and their money. This is very personal. So the problem is the CMO can prove value very quickly on the left. They can pay, they can get all these new customers. They go, yay, I've got all these new customers. Can I keep my job? And on the right-hand side, it just takes too long. It's hard. You all know this. It's super, super hard. So now we're stuck with leaky buckets. the old marketing model of fill the bucket from the top as acquisition and then any kind of leaks. So we have leaky buckets everywhere. But I'm here to talk about some really exciting changes. The tide is turning. So there's a professor at NYU named Scott Galloway. I'm a huge fan of his work, and he talks about this notion of this thing that's happening as the advertising industrial complex, where we're just obsessively paying money toward acquiring customers. There's so much click fraud. There's so much like just wasted spend. And there's not been any incentive to stop it, because if you go through all of these technologies and agencies, and they're all making money off of it. There's like 6 or 7 different parties every time you buy an ad that are making money off of it. And so it's dying. And let me tell you why. So first of all, I want to talk about the budget priorities are changing. This is from the SparkPost email in 2022 study. I did a survey with my team late last year where we reached out to 2,000 marketing leaders globally, and we said, what are your budget priorities? I'm sad to hear that in this room, the little back of the napkin survey done at the event, that it showed that it wasn't so great, but 2,000 marketing leaders globally. If you look at the 2020, that's the orange in the spider graph, the deeper you go out, the better the spend is. So if it's narrow, it's not great. So if you look at 2020, and this was late 2020, digital advertising was really far out. If you look at this year, or late last year, it pulled in quite a bit. And look at CRM and email marketing. We're getting a little bit more money, hopefully. So it seems like CMOs are starting to understand that we've got to start investing in our email channel. So what's happening? Why is this shift taking place? So Apple, I'm sure you all have heard about the very public fight with Facebook. That whole beef is about Apple is making it where people can't be tracked in the apps that they download from the Apple Store. And it costs Facebook $12 billion. They took a $12 billion hit. This was just from a couple weeks ago. Google is planning to do the same thing with Android, where users can say, for any app on my phone that I download from Google Play, I don't want you to track me. So now all this data of following people around on apps and being able to feed that back into Facebook and other advertising platforms is going to evaporate. It already is. On the browser front, third-party cookies are deprecating. We've lost it on Safari already, Firefox, and in late 2023, Google has said they are going to get rid of it. So what's going to happen? Things like, I'm a huge fan of ThredUp, recycled clothing. ThredUp is amazing, and right now they're following me all over the internet. So if I go to CNN.com or any other type of website, they're serving ads to me. This is going to be a lot more difficult. I'm also a Chrome user, so they're still able to do this, but it's going to be a lot harder. Now, we'll see what Google comes up with as a replacement, but it's not going to be as good as knowing that it was me on ThreadUp and then be able to follow me around. And it'll probably get a lot more expensive. So yeah, we've had some privacy changes in our space too. Apple Mail privacy protection, that's like been the biggest thing that's happened to us in a bad way in a while. But I think people are kind of over it. Like about 50 to 60% of your opens are unreliable. We know that. Opens were never a perfect metric. And so, like, it's all right. But I wanted to recognize this is a headwind for us. We just showed 2 tailwinds. There's 1 headwind. And also the prefetching, the similar thing that happens on Apple. We're seeing a small percentage of traffic being prefetched as well at Gmail, Yahoo, and we're seeing some stuff with Proofpoint. So I think it is expanding. I don't know what's going to happen, but with 6.5 trillion emails coming out of our system a year, we can see that there is some prefetching activity happening in other environments, and we're going to keep an eye on that. But email is continuing to perform, and it's also aligning well with other channels. So if we look at 2020, there weren't as many people that said that email marketing has made a positive impact to the business, which kind of blows my mind. They 58% in 2020, versus this past year, it was 76%. And then 95% of leaders said email marketing aligned with other marketing disciplines in 2021, compared to 50% in 2020. So we're starting to get friendly with the other channels in our stack. So, big question, what do you do? I think there's still a lot of edges on our email programs, even mine at SparkPost, and we're an email company. We know that 20% of emails never make it to the inbox. So start to focus on deliverability analytics. Imagine if you could even get 5 to 10% more of those in front of your customers, how much more revenue you would have. There's also 23 painful steps in the enterprise email production process. I worked on this at SparkPost because I wanted our sales team and our engineering team and our R&D team, I wanted them to understand like just how painful it is to get an email out the door and all of the looping approval steps that just seem to never end. And so like work through, build an email design system, work through how you can build better workflow and collaboration with your team, because like the process as it is today, it just ain't working. And then 15% of people have a disability. This is something that's really important to me. This is as stated by the WHO. And some of these people may not be able to engage with your emails. And actually, if you think about like, a parent holding their child while they're holding their smartphone, and I mean, maybe they're checking your email. Maybe I'm a little too bullish on when people check emails, but like I'm sure we've all checked emails in really weird scenarios. My colleague Elliot Ross actually talks about these temporary moments where people are not actually, they're not disabled, but they are in a moment where they're struggling to engage with your emails and they want to. So there's a lot we can be doing from an accessibility standpoint. And I've created a cheat sheet if anyone would like to have that. There's been a ton of talk about data. I want to delineate between zero and first-party data. Forrester has this, and I think it's a really great explanation. Zero-party data, let's just start asking our customers for what they want from us. That's zero-party. Versus first-party is the data we're inferring. So a lot of the things that like Wayfair talked about this morning with, I know you've looked at a toilet. I love the toilet example, it was hilarious. You've looked at a toilet, so they're personalizing the emails, showing you different accessories around that. And it's also ambient data that you collect about your customers, about their situational awareness, their habits, their trends. So keep on going, press the gas, tell your boss, I have to do this, I need to make this happen, and try to get the budget for that. I think there's also a land grab opportunity for us. No one on the marketing roster knows first-party and zero-party data more than the people in this room, people like you at other companies as well. There's so much opportunity. Like, I even learned about a new channel yesterday. I knew about browser push messages, but I didn't know you could personalize browser push messages. And I'm like, ooh, this is neat. SMS, it's having a day for certain industries. Chat apps, I think, are an interesting place to like test and learn and see if that works for you. And also, just good old-fashioned direct mail. I feel like anymore when I get something direct mail from like some of these cooler like Shopify-powered like millennial and Gen Z focused brands, I'm like, ooh, this is kind of cool. Like it stands out to me. And I often, it's, your mailbox is an inbox that's not super crowded anymore. So maybe that's something we could test on recycled paper, please. And then there's a lot of talk about conversational commerce. And I feel like people kind of boil down conversational commerce to just SMS, but really it's any channel that you can use to go back and forth and have a conversation and help someone convert. I realize this one is a high lift, but man, how awesome would it be if you're like perusing and have a question about something and there's a person, a chat bot, and then maybe a person that can help you complete that sale. I feel like this is a huge opportunity, and there's a reason that a lot of people are buzzing about it on Twitter. So with that, I wanted to say it's our time, folks. Like, this is it. Like, there is a huge shift happening. Do not let your friends on the advertising side of the house take all the money. It's time to get the budget. There's a lot of opportunity for us, and I'd be excited to chat with you more about it at the beach or tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, April, and glad you made it. You have a team here too, right?
I do. Oh, yes.
Okay.
I have Eddie, Rose, and Mitch.
Oh, awesome.
So we are all here to answer your questions.
Very cool. So great, very well covered. Thank you so much. Thanks, April. Big round of applause for April.